My name is Livia Zuleta. I am 22 years old. I am a female.
You call women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
For the record, it was well beyond Rosie O'Donnell.
Yes, I'm sure.
Bisexual.
Gay marriage.
I am traditional. I am for traditional.
Queers don't even have children. Okay, they don't even love their own grandmothers and grandfathers. A disgrace. This country is full of perverts, and that's what's got to stop.
Hispanic in America. I am a triple minority. Living my childhood, I never thought that being a girl or being Hispanic would affect my everyday life. The most things that I think that affected me was growing up. I had never been very feminine. I never really liked playing with feminine girl toys. I always liked playing with action figures and video games. So I used to get a little bit picked on by my childhood friends, oh, she's playing with boy toys or whatever. But that was the most. Being Hispanic as a kid, that had never been an issue because I was growing up in New York, and New York is filled with diverse people. Every one of my friends were Hispanic. I had a couple of white friends, black friends. It was like a melting pot. It was, you had a little bit of everything, so no one was seen as more, or how should I say, I guess one was not valued more than the other. But as a kid, I always knew I was different as far as my sexual orientation now that I look back on my childhood. When I was 5 years old in the first grade, I would say I was oh, I think I would have crushes on girls at that age. And I kind of always kept it in the back of my mind, but I didn't know what it was. I just kind of was oh, maybe it's just something I'm going through and I'll grow out of it. But the older I got, the more my love for women was growing and growing. And then eventually, by the time I got to high school, when I was 14, I was oh, so this is a thing. There's people in the world that like the same sex, and I might be one of those people. I didn't really realize I was a triple minority for a while, for such a long time. I didn't realize until I think it was my junior year of college, just 2 years ago, when I realized I'm a triple minority in America because of my gender, because of my race, and because of my sexual orientation. So as a female, I already can't get paid as equal as men. There's that. There's the fact that every time I go out, and because I'm a girl, my parents tell me to be extra careful. And they've even told me if I was a boy, they wouldn't care so much. But because I'm a girl, they care what happens to me and where my whereabouts are. Because, we live in a society where females have to be careful with how they dress and where they go. And then being Hispanic, that was never really an issue until I moved to the South. When I moved from New York to North Carolina, I was hit with a huge culture shock because I would sit in a classroom and there would be nobody that would look similar to me. If there was, it would be one other person. It'd be all white people, a few black people, and it hits you. It's my race is the minority, especially in the South. So also because being Hispanic, people perceive me as not as intelligent, or they think I'm undocumented, which is also nothing wrong with that either, but they make these assumptions. Then there's my sexual orientation of liking both men and women. That is seen as not normal. Or the social norm is heterosexuality. That's what the world perceives as normal. So me dating somebody of the same sex, obviously some people are not cool or accepting of that. They perceive that as very deviant. It sucks because the country where I was born in, where I've been raised, where I've been brought up, many people don't accept me for my race, for my gender sometimes, and for my sexual orientation. And so it's just a lot to navigate because I'm in 3 categories of minority communities, and I feel like sometimes because I'm part of these 3 minority communities, I have to work 3 times as hard as the average person just to be accepted with everyone that I come across.
I am Kayla Overdeep. I am 22 years old, and I identify as Black, female, and gay, only because I don't like the word lesbian. How would I describe being a triple minority in America? It's great, and it sucks at the same time. All of the communities are, majority of the female and or LGBT and or Black spaces that I have been in or are in currently are super welcoming, super genuine, sort of like another family in a sense. So like in that aspect, it's great because you're always gonna have somebody, or you can always find somebody to have some kind of connection with one of the 3. But at the same time, it sucks because you have to maneuver your life in such a way that like you can't. I'm not gonna say you can't be, but it's hard to be all 3 at the same time. If that makes sense. Like you have to pick and choose which one you want to be at a certain time. It's hard to pick. It's hard to be all 3 at one time, and so like essentially what I'm trying to get at is you have to pick and choose your battles, and you have to pick and choose how you identify in what spaces.
So my name is Maria Belen. Most people just call me Belen or Belen. I'm 21 years old, and I'm Hispanic. I'm female, and I identify as straight. So like as a kid, I never thought that it would either hinder my education or hinder my relationships just because of where I was from. I don't think that as a kid you have that mentality. I think that when I was in Argentina, I felt like that's where I belonged, that's where I was. But then coming to a different country, then of course I was going to be looked as different. So I think before Trump's election, I was still very aware of race. Even though some people mistake me as sometimes as being American, or because they can't tell that I have an accent, like I don't really have a Hispanic accent and I speak English fluently because I've been here for 17 years. But I've had instances like with police officers and with professors that have led me to be like, oh, okay, why I get treated differently, and not in a good way. In a negative way, I get treated that way. So I guess that was before, but I was aware of things that were happening, you know. Even when I first got here, like my first grade teacher, I would raise my hand all the time for help because I just recently moved here, and she wouldn't come to me. And I would get so tired of raising my hand, which is the policy. Like, kids raise their hands because they need help or they have a question. And I would be there at my little desk, and I remember just raising my hand and just getting tired of raising my hand, and then I wouldn't do the work because I didn't know what was going on. So it was kind of like just negative. And then they would say, oh, well, she's not doing her work, but it's not because I didn't want to, it's just because they never came and gave me the attention or the time that I needed for me to understand what they were asking me to do. Most definitely, I think I have privilege because I identify as straight because that's the norm, or the wannabe norm in society. So that's one less category that I'm placed in. So there's like, oh, well, at least we can like sometimes bond over that, you know what I'm saying? Like have a conversation over, you know, heterosexual relationships. You know, people when they meet each other want to find like common ground. So even if I'm an immigrant and I look different, and let's say I'm another minority, I'm a female, that is still like, oh, but you're straight. So there's more like, it's not that bad.
My name is Maya Deary. I'm 51 years old. I am female, and I am sexually oriented towards women. I don't know that I can describe being female and being gay in America because I have a pretty limited set of experiences, just one person's. I think I mean, for me, at this point, it feels, my entire life feels like an embarrassment of riches. I'm very grateful, I'm profoundly grateful for the fact that I am all the ways that I am. And I think my life has really been, it's not that I haven't had challenges, I certainly have, in misery and heartbreak and loss, but relative to the experiences of most of humanity, my life has been pretty darn easy and privileged. And the viewpoint and the perspective that being homosexual has afforded me, I think has been among the most valuable lenses that I've had available to me in my life. Once I accepted myself and realized I was never going to fit in this way that I thought when I was young I would fit in, I think it gave me permission to just not fit in all sorts of other ways, just really be who I was. The fact that life is easier for me because of the color of my skin is something that I think when I first really started to feel, as opposed to think about, I went through a period, as I think many white people do, a period of sort of acceptance and grief and guilt, kind of all mixed together. Luckily, I mean, it was not a good thing that I got to be pretty old before I thought about white privilege. But the good part about it is that I knew that that sort of guilt phase was pretty self-indulgent, and so it didn't last very long.
Victory, Donald J. Trump will become the 45th president of the United States, defeating Hillary Clinton in a campaign unlike anything we've seen in our lifetime.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems.
Punishment for abortion, yes or no, as a principle?
The answer is that there has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah, there has to be some form.
He has reached out to a group of people in this country that do not like minorities at all, whether it's minorities when it comes to race or the LGBT community.
Having a president who is very discriminatory towards essentially all of my identities is not comforting.
I think he's very much a child in the way that he speaks and talks about women and minorities, and he just doesn't respect them. He doesn't realize that he came here as his family probably came here as an immigrant as well, because no one was born here.
Hey, when you're a son, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the...
It's horrifying to have the current president that we have right now.
No, you don't. You haven't been called. Go back to Univision. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Get out of my country. Get out.
This is
not about you.
I'm a U.S. citizen too.
Well, whatever. No, Univision. No, it's not about you.
It's not about you. It's about the United States.
It's pretty scary, and I'm not sure that, I'm an educator. The scariest thing to me is that it doesn't feel like very many people understand how rare and precious and valuable in the scope of human history a functioning democracy is. And that doesn't mean that it's worked well for everybody. It clearly hasn't. It's clearly worked very poorly for groups of people. And I'm pretty sure that a dictatorship is going to work worse for almost everybody.
March coming out of Washington and across the entire world. Thousands of people.
Protesters first all across America and around the world marching today for women's rights and other civil rights they fear could be under threat from President Trump's administration.
They came in their thousands. Children, men and women. Lots of women.
Picture there. Hundreds of thousands of people have gathered to demand equal rights.
Going to Washington, D.C. for the first time and being part of the Women's March was literally one of the most amazing experiences of my entire life. Being there it was 600,000 people, I believe, in D.C., and hearing all these people support all these minority groups, it gave me a sense of hope.
In Washington, the protests surpassed President Trump's inauguration crowd, a slap in the face to a man who cares about size.
Women and minorities are a mess that need to be reckoned with. And I think that the amount of cities that were involved as well in the march has spread wide, and it's not even just in our country. It was in other countries as well. And feeling that support is also felt empowering to me that I am not alone, even though my leader is pretty much telling me that I'm awful. And that if I have a little bit extra weight, then I'm ugly.
You know, I really hope that this response to Trump generates more understanding of and involvement in local politics. I do think protests and marches are important, and I think they're particularly important for people who don't have access or easy access to the conventional, traditional political system. And I think in the end, that is probably what is going to make the difference, is who can you get to show up for the polls? That's what made the difference in this last election.
Even though I'm a minority, I love who I am. I love my identities. I fucking love being black, man. Being black is lit. Being black is great. Love being who I am. I love women, and I know that I love women, and I would never change that about myself. I take the uttermost great pride in being who I am. I'm not ashamed of who I am.
Even though I am a minority, I have the biggest ego and pride for Argentina. I've grown up with seeing my grandmother work in the house. I've seen my aunts do the same thing. I've seen my mom do it. And the way that I've seen these Hispanic women in my life do the chores of the home and go to work every day and take care of their husbands has given me a lot of pride in being a woman and being Hispanic in the way that I have grown up. I love the way that I grew up.
Being a triple minority is absolutely, without a doubt, beautiful. I find it to be beautiful. Yes, I have to face so many more obstacles and challenges and walls compared to other people who are not triple minorities or minorities in general, because all of us face something different. But there's nothing more beautiful in this world than to be unique and different. And to be a triple minority is unique, and it's beautiful. I'm a triple minority, and for many people, they view minorities as a threat. So therefore, I'm a triple threat to certain people in society in America. I hope as my generation and future generations come that we will make a change and impact in this country, and we will shape America the way it's supposed to be, the way it was always meant to be. Freedom, liberty, and justice for all. That's what I'm hopeful for. Maybe one day. That's all.
Don't let me show cruelty, though I may make mistakes. Don't let me show ugliness, though I know I can hate. And don't let me show
I got a crick in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. Been broken, not really in the right mindset to see no pain, oh pain. Never really been thought out like a politician bought out, but you made me listen to your petition out and let it all get up. Say no, but if you throw me love, I'll throw you some more.
Don't let me show cruelty, though I may make mistakes. Don't let me show ugliness, though I know I can hate. And don't let me show evil, though it might be all I take. Show me love, show me love. Show me love, and don't